James, it's been far too long since we've physically been in a room together, and I say that in a platonic way. Um, what's the deal? You out in LA, I'm over in New York. We got to fix that. When are we going to have lunch together?
The key to that is we've got to figure out a project to work on together. So here's the thing: it's like you create projects so that you can work with your friends.
I agree with that because it's the only time because people like you and we don't have actual time to be friends with people in person. But if you're like, we'll work on a project. I haven't seen you in a long time. Let's make it happen. Well, I'm always happy to work with you. I'm a writer. That's what I do. I get paid for it. I make the stories. Add two apples, some bananas, and we make things happen. And I'm happy to write anything. By the way, I'll write another Christmas movie for you. I don't care. I'll just whatever you Christmas, Halloween, Thanksgiving film. I'm your guy. But we actually met at AFM, which was a funny coincidence, and I say that because I am sure you were thinking the same thing I was thinking with that lady that we met at the same time, the actress that was handing out the USBs, and
Oh,
and we're like, I don't think you should do that because you're not building relate. You're just handing people things and running off. We don't know who you are. And she's like, thanks. And then she gives us a USB.
well, that's the whole thing. Is like you work with people you know. Yeah, like if you have a whole list of, you know, folks you could fill in a position, you're like, well, who do I like working with? Who do I like hanging around? Like, who's fun, like
Yeah.
on set and can deliver, So that's, and if somebody just handed you something and like scurried off, there's like no relationship there.
Yeah.
So, it's,
She's playing a numbers game. She's like, look at my face, look at my USB, look at my resume. And you're like, but your resume has nothing on it. And honestly, how many times, okay, be honest, all right? This show is about being honest and straightforward. How many times have you been like,
oh, that's so New York, man. Being
just
honest and straightforward. Like, that is not Hollywood. You know that, right?
well, yeah, Hollywood's like, yeah, let me look into that. And I'm not interested. You know?
Well,
But
Hollywood's all about, the facade. Like,
yeah.
it's all the back lot. And then you open up the door and you're like, oh, it's some 2x4s. And, and
What's the deal?
it's in.
Yeah, New York is just like, I don't have time. What are we doing? Just get it out. But no, in all honesty, how many times, okay, have you seen an actor and then be like, well, I need to check out their resume, and that became the deciding factor in casting them or even looking at them? No headshot, just the resume.
Okay, so first off, I am horrible with names. So when somebody goes, oh, and they like give me a name, and I was like, hold on a minute, IMDb. And I was like, oh yeah, I totally know them because I'm a visual person. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I don't see a face, I don't connect,
Mm-hmm.
on there. So I really connect visually on there. And yeah, I'll look at people's resume and I'll say, oh, you know what? I really enjoyed that show or I really enjoyed that film. It's like, oh, who were they in there? And so, for resumes, I actually will go through and take a look at it. But a resume is a resume. It doesn't tell you how their performance was.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't tell you if they were a pain on set.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Were they the person that you couldn't get out of their trailer to get into hair and makeup and wardrobe?
Yeah. Exactly. Did they even wake up?
Were they the one that was just constantly complaining about everything? Or were they the one that just brought this incredible energy to set? I mean, I gotta tell you, there are some actors that I've worked with. It's like, man, I don't have a role for them, but let's make one because
Yeah.
they've got great energy. And when they come to set, like it just like it 10x's things. And anything that was maybe teetering doesn't matter. It's quashed, gone, and there's this great bubble.
Yeah.
And that's really the key on set is who are all the people, not just in front of the camera, but behind the camera, that create this incredible bubble of creative energy that's just exploding and enlightening just happening.
Yeah.
Like that's what you want. And so much comes down to that, and that's, once again, back to relationships.
Yeah, exactly. And there's something I talk about a lot, especially in when I'm teaching or doing speaking engagements. I talk about leading, following, and advising. Leading is actually about being proactive and taking action, right? And elevating the others around you, inspiring them. Following isn't necessarily like just taking orders, but it's following the mission, rising and elevating the mission. And of course, advising is giving options, not necessarily allowing your ego to be like, no, it's my way or the highway, right? So what you're saying is exactly that. When you're an actor or anybody, you could be even the cinematographer. When you're on set, you're not there to just be that thing. You're there to set the tone. You're there to be like, what can I do to make this experience better, not just for me, but for everyone around me? Because I could be the weak link, or I could be the link that helps others up and gets things going. And I love that you said that, especially because you're a producer. And some actors, they don't get that through their head. They're just like, well, I'll just be this actor sucks, so I'm just gonna be as good as I can, just so I get seen. But don't really, I'll outshine them, and that's all I care about. And you're like, you're not the right person for the next event. You're not on the next project. But real quick with the resume, I'm sure you've done casting calls and had people in front of you. You're looking at who they are. They come in. How did they come in? Was their personality with them when they came in? When they performed the character, was their personality changed from what they did on for the act, or And how were they gracious to say goodbye? How like again, you say you just look at the resume and you're like, oh, that's cool that they did those things, but all that other stuff is what's so valuable. And I think in this industry, there's a lot of misconceptions, and actors and people, a
Just
lot
a
of misconceptions. Just like six. There's like six. They put a lot of weight on their headshot and their resume, and they go, if I have the most expensive headshot and and I have the best
so
resume.
yeah, I think there's a ton on there. So I mean, you got to remember it related to some other things. So your headshot's kind of like a book cover on there. It is something that, if it's a little thumbnail and that's you're going through, because it is a thumbnail when you get it. And just to dial back, so we have some connotation. So the last two films, um, both Rebecca and I, my wife and I, we um, handled 100% of the casting. We didn't hire a casting director, and that really came down to because there was no time. There there wasn't the time that allowed for the inefficiency of transfer of information to multiple people.
Yeah.
And so we had to collapse. And that's the thing with producing. It's like you have to assess what you're dealing with, and then you have to have a plan for success within those limits
Yeah.
of the situation. So the situation on both of those projects, we had to handle all the casting ourselves on there. And so, the one we had 10,000 submissions, just a few.
So you looked at 10.
So just imagine you have to look through 10,000 thumbnails,
Yeah.
right? And you've got to pick people off those thumbnails. So that thumbnail's got to pop on there. And so, is it worth getting a good one? Yeah. Could you get away with a horrible one? Possibly. But it's your path. What kind of money you have to invest in yourself, in your own brand, and that. But if you can have it to where they're able to capture your essence of who you are personally,
Mm-hmm.
And then have you separated from the background, you're going to pop on there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's step one. That's your book cover.
Yeah.
All
Gotta
right.
get one of these.
All right. So now we're willing to read the blurb, right?
Mm-hmm.
On there and of the book. And so you read the blurb. So you look at the resume really quick. It's like boom, boom, boom. Okay, great. And then next thing you really need is, there's like, kind of log line or blurb or whatever. But now you need to have a reel on there. And
You got to get real and have a reel.
And I don't have 5-10 minutes of time times 10,000. I don't.
Yeah.
So you got to remember, you're not like giving all this. You're cutting your reel down to the freaking essence in the first few seconds on
Yeah.
there.
But they say 15 to 30 seconds is it's cutting it close.
Exactly. And then beyond that, if you have extra stuff, great. But that first part, that thing's got to be gold because then it's click, click, click.
Yeah.
I got to go through 10,000 of these things, or Rebecca's got to go through 10,000 of these things,
It's a
as
lot. It's a lot.
we weed out the first on there. And so we'll just go through really quick on there. And maybe on the first pass, we're not going through that many. I don't know. It just depends upon the situation. Maybe we're asking for, but usually we do that. But maybe we're asking for you to read lines, and
Yeah.
then you got to deliver it back. And it's amazing that you'll say, "Hey, go ahead and submit this audition," and then 50% won't even submit it. Like 50, like
Yeah.
literally, like cut it down the set. You
Which is
send
good.
out 1,000. You said 1,000 ones. You're like click, 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 and you send out 1,000, and only 500 submit
Yeah.
on time with the sides and all that. So it's your responsibility to get the sides yourself.
Mhm.
So it's like you got to download it. You got to download the sides from where they are. You got to look at the part. You got to read the part. Like we put up all the description. We do all that. We can't handle that. That's on you.
Yeah.
You have to deliver. You have to show up.
Yeah.
They say like 50% is showing up. Well, I don't know if that's exact percentage, but you do have to show up.
I do know 50% don't.
I know 50% don't.
But
So
you said it earlier though. You want to work with your friends. And when you make a movie, the first casting starts with who would I like to put in this? Who would I like to work with? Who would be right for this part that I'm writing into this character? And if they all say yes, the casting has just been taken care of. Now you got all the little things. And
yes or no. So you got to remember, like, I'm thinking about big parts on there. And so the big parts are going to be filled by maybe somebody I already know or somebody I'm reaching out to.
Exactly.
And that, but then there's smaller parts. Or I mean, I don't really like to say the word
There's
small.
no small parts, only small people.
So I think I would say there's parts that are supporting that have less screen time.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
they're very key because if they're not done right, like it doesn't support the other actor and then it falls apart.
Yeah, exactly.
So and those are great opportunities because I found some really wonderful people that way. And I don't just like throw those to anybody. It's like we spend time, I specifically spend time to make sure I've got the person that's really going to pop on screen for that role. And if it all goes really well, you better believe that I'm going to be calling them back on another project if I have something I think that number one, they're great for, and number two, that they'll appreciate, enjoy, and want to do.
Yeah, especially if they keep in touch, if they see you working on other things and they help promote those things, even though they're not involved, you really can tell a lot about a person by what are they getting and what are they not getting. And when they're not getting a lot, but they're giving a lot, you say, all right, this person cares. I'm going to start giving them more than because they're a real asset
Mhm.
to the process.
And you'd be surprised because some people that that you have a friend that you'd like to pop in a thing, it doesn't work out. Like they're booked on another film. I've had that happen with several. It's like, and we couldn't adjust our schedule. If I can adjust my schedule, I totally would. But I've had it, where Ben Browder, he was on another film, and I wanted to throw him in as a lead, and he was kind of bummed, and I was bummed because we had fun hanging out, and
Yeah.
we would have been able to hang out together for a whole other film, you know. And then I had another friend, Tommy Hobson, who's Nickelodeon That Girl Lele. He plays the dad in that hit sitcom,
Yeah.
and I wanted to pull him in, but he was on Ghost of Ozark at the time on there, which nothing I could do about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Schedules are full.
I mean, he was even trying like maybe pop over to do a little bit, but so sometimes it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Where you're able to pull in your friends, and then you're like, okay, I'm casting this. We're gonna find somebody to put in here. But yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely people like that I always have in my head where I'm like, I want to. They're going to be a first ask on every single project I do, no matter what. You know, but I try not to write characters with the voices of the actors I know. I just try to write the character, and then I'm like, hey, I want you as this character. You know, can you find them? And a lot of times they can, but
I'm gonna still keep on hitting up Mario Martindale. I love her. I think she's amazing. So whenever I have a part that I think I can hit her up for, I was like, call up her reps. You know,
she has an excellent handshake. My aunt had an excellent handshake, but she had Parkinson's. All right, so uh, that's a shaky joke at best. Um, my real thought to this is your journey. You know, we got a couple minutes before I want to get to the next thing of talking shop, but uh, you obviously didn't always want to be a producer. I'm sure you were working towards something else, and then you were like, well, nothing's getting done, so let me start
that's
getting
kind of
it
an
done.
interesting thing. You know, because are we on the journey part or no?
Yeah, journey it up, journey it up.
Okay, so yes, I wanted to direct and that, but the thing is when you're young, you have those misconceptions where you're like, oh, I think I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and it's like, no, you don't. Like
Yeah,
that's like some like crazy thing. Like how many people literally think they have to do things a certain way or have it cemented in their head, and it's so not true.
yep,
Like
yep.
you created your own obstacle course, and why the freak would you do that to yourself? But you did. So so I had interviewed. I was just out of USC, and I was doing like some work, and that this is back before the days of IMDb and back before non-linear editing. Wow. So I was a kid then. Yes, I was a kid. So
Yeah.
um, and I had interviewed at Fox Family Film, or with the like head of Fox Family Film, and that, and it came down to myself and a colleague that also went to USC, and they ended up getting the job and that. Um, and I think like the deciding factor on there literally was I was dyslexic and it required typing, and my typing like so was slow at the time. I mean,
You a
like,
hunter?
yeah, that was me. Like it was not that great because let's face it, back then email was a very new thing. Nobody really was doing it.
Yeah. It was scary. It was scary.
um, and that's when we had what dot matrix printers and all those like crazy things.
Yeah.
So it's like 80s retro now, although it was like 96 or something like that, or 97. But so as like she's like, I absolutely love you. You need to be in this industry, and like whatever I can do to help on there. In fact, I can sponsor you at the DGA, right?
Like, yeah,
And
because you need a
stay in
sponsor. Yeah.
touch with me. And I was like so devastated that I didn't get it, and my colleague got it, who had a master's, and I only had like
Yeah.
an undergrad, that I didn't. And I just kind of moved forward with some other things. And I was like, how foolish that was. Like, because I really wanted to direct. But at the
Yeah.
same time, I really think as many experiences as I had at the time, I literally had nowhere near the voice that I have now. Like the voice that I have now, I've got something to say
Yeah. Yeah.
about so much. Because I feel like I've lived like probably about 5 different lifetimes in the life that I've had.
Yeah. Well, you're 30, right?
I mean, because it's like I've had the secure like Wall Street securities, banking, IT. Like I've had all these different careers and backgrounds that I've crunched into, and they all kind of the skill sets all overlap and fold in on each
Hmm.
other, which is kind of interesting. It just makes me more I don't know, want to use the word diverse, but um, just a wealth as a producer. I
Yeah.
come with a wealth of skill
Your
and
value sets, as they say.
background that just translate to anything. And you'll find that happens with anybody who's just does a lot. They just come with this vast knowledge
Yeah.
and experience, and they're a pleasure to deal or to work with, and that, and you gain some of that while you're working with them. Everybody you work with, you pick up stuff from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. And as not that I'm a fan of Thomas Edison because he's a thief, but he has some of my favorite quotes. One being, "I can answer any question because I know everything." And someone challenged him on that, and they asked him like some crazy science question, and he went over to the phone that he helped mass produce. Didn't invent, but he helped mass produce it. And I went, "Hey, so and so, I need this," and they were like, "Yeah, that's cheating." And he was like, "You surround yourself with smarter people than you, you'll know everything, and don't allow your ego to keep you from asking the questions." And that's another thing about being a leader. A leader takes accountability and saying, "I don't know this. I am comfortable enough and secure in my humanity to be like, James, I need you to answer this question for me." And you know what? You might not know the answer. And if you're like, "I don't know the answer, but I know someone who does," that makes you an asset. Even though you don't know the answer, you know how to
Oh,
take
you know where to find
accountability.
it, and that's the value of a producer. Is I mean, so much of a producer is their well, their contacts,
Yeah.
and because whenever there's a problem, which like let's face it, it's just one problem after another that you're solving.
We don't make films, we put puzzles together.
Well, I, that's it, and and
Mm.
and it's not necessarily who you know, but it's who knows you.
Yep.
There's that saying. But more importantly, when you have a problem, it's how fast can you find the contact for the person and how fast can you reach them
Yep.
that is the solution for the problem on
Agreed.
there. And for some people, it's going to take them days to go through their contacts to find it. But if somebody can like, hold on, okay, here I got it. This is the person we need.
Yeah.
That person is more valuable than the person that maybe knows like a larger amount of folks with but they can't get to them as fast. Like
Yeah, they don't have the authority or the influence to facilitate speed because time,
or the
especially for producers.
organization. I mean, that's the thing is like I went through all my contacts and I started. Well, I basically kind of treat it like Instagram in the aspect of they all have tags
Yeah.
on there. So if I need, somebody who is a vendor, that's a tag. And
Hmm.
then if it's let's say an ice cream vendor, so now ice cream is a tag. So
Yep.
those are my two tags. And then like boom, and then I've got all my ice cream vendors right there. And you
Yeah.
know what? Perfect. I'm gonna put an ice cream vendor in this scene, and then we're gonna treat the whole, crew to ice cream. You
You
know,
know, I've been doing that for who knows how long. Even like when phones are people are like, "Why do you have?" Because it'll say comedian, comic promoter, musician promoter, venue owner, like especially, and they're like, "Why do you do that?" And I was like, "Because that's their value set. That they're not in my phone because I want to hang out with them and play video games."
well, and when you start to get to like, 3,000,
Yeah.
10,000, 15,000 contacts
Exactly.
because you're going to AFM or you're going to Produce by Conference or you're going to Cannes.
Yeah.
You know, when you go to some place like that, like you come back sometimes with just a stack of cards from
Yeah.
meetings, or you don't do cards anymore and you're just swapping it digitally, but you've got to tag those so you can find them and do with that. I mean, I just got back from Comic Con,
Yeah.
so like all the press that I talked to at Comic Con, it's like it's a stack,
Yeah.
and so I need to be able to hey, we're back in town, or hey, we got this project that specifically that you would be interested in on there. Let me send you on over the information. We'll connect up on it.
Yeah. Now I got two things for that. The first one is, and correct me if I'm wrong. The majority of people who collect business cards place them on their desk and then just forget about them. And that is why things are not happening, because you have to be proactive. Correct or incorrect?
Yeah, I would definitely say it's the majority. It's probably
Yeah.
like 99% on
Yeah.
there, and because great, so everything you have like kind of an assembly line, I guess is
Hmm.
going back to Edison or whatever. But you have your assembly line.
Ford.
Yeah, so you have your assembly line, so or the process. So you got to go to the event.
Hmm.
You meet somebody, you exchange information. If you exchange by cards, then the next thing is you have to remember stuff about that person.
Yep.
So if you didn't write notes on that or have like an impeccable memory, then you now have a break in your chain
Yep.
on there. But if you did, now you take it back and now it's a stack with all these people with notes on there or your memory of them.
Yep.
And then you have to translate it to digital and
Yep.
get it into your phone. Well, that takes time. And are you doing it? Do you have an assistant that'll do it? Do you have a virtual assistant that are they good at doing it? And
Yep.
then once you do, then you have to follow up. Are you sending an email? Are you sending a text? And they have to get into your circle of influence of your
That's
daily
right.
influence. And if they don't get to the circle of your daily influence, then yeah, it's still sitting up on the mantle
Yeah.
of your fireplace or wherever. And I've seen people with literally bags of business cards, but they met them years ago. They probably don't even work for the same company anymore. So all that time that was spent in all these events was worthless.
Yeah. And they're like, why do they have all these brown cards? And it's just because they were white and they just like stained away. My second thing though is, so what are my tags in your phone? And if it's not the best beard in Hollywood, I'm gonna be a little upset.
It's definitely not the best beard in Hollywood because I'm not looking for the best beard in Hollywood.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right.
But I definitely have you with a production company. I definitely have you in New York
Yep.
on there, and I think I had in there that you have like equipment package on there.
I used to. So we're not with Tiffany anymore. Our guy that
Okay.
worked at Tiffany Direct. So you could take that out.
Okay.
But they were he actually started his own photography company, and it's very successful in a very short amount of time. Um, but yeah, I actually parted ways with that producer partner because I wanted to do things anyway. So
I have a producer on there for you, and I think I ended up putting like podcasts on there or something like that. So
podcast. You could put me on as a writer because that's actually what I started as when I was 16. I was a writer, and I've been a writer ever since. I started in comic books, and then I went to like music. I got hired to write lyrics and stuff for people, and then it then it turned into writing copy, marketing copy, and then it turned into writing scripts and stories, novels. Actually, I have a client on Saturday. I've been helping her understand her narrative on her story, and I helped her take one chapter and turn it into three powerful chapters and create all these subplots. She was like, I didn't realize they were there. And I was like, well, that's why you
and
hire people
until
like
I
me.
helped you pull them out from the grave.
What do you mean there has to be more to this character? I just want him to do the thing that I thought would be cool on page. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
I go, not
So,
everyone's Zack Snyder.
yeah, it's funny you mentioned comic book because we're actually taking some of Rebecca's IP and we're moving that over into the comic book realm. I've been wanting to do that for years.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
literally, but the problem I ran into that is having to do all the drawing.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
I, well, first thing is I started pricing on there, and I was like, okay, so roughly we're going to be like a minimum of 350 a page, right?
Uh, yeah, it
So that's
depends.
what it was because I'm talking about you know
Coloring, penciling,
yeah,
inking,
all of that, ink, color,
paneling.
all that. So I'm like 350 a page, and I'm like, all right, so cost wise, I don't want to do that. Um, so I was like, okay, well, I'll do it myself. And I was like, dude, it's gonna take me forever to draw that. Like, I love
Yeah.
drawing, but I might as well just tell the family, hey, find somebody else to support you because I'm gonna be drawing comic books for a while. You know, it's like, that's not gonna fly. So I tabled all that, but then now it's changed. Like software is
Yeah.
so fast now and the quality looks so good on the printed page
Yep.
on there. So now it's like, okay, I can start, coming back to revisit. But that's the thing in this industry is like, if you really want to do something, you don't give up on it. You just table it for a minute, and
Yeah.
you gain some extra skill sets along the way, or technology comes along, or you gain more relationships. But enough happens to where all of a sudden this puzzle piece that you really wanted to use, all of a sudden snaps in with all your other puzzle pieces.
Yeah. I mean, I started when you use light tables. You start, when you have to draw on the light. You know, I got out of drawing uh, because my first big paid job was I had to draw the Jabberwocky, from the Jabberwocky film, and it was on a 2x4, 2 foot by 4 foot poster board, colored, penciled, everything, and I did it. And the guy says, "I love it, but could you change this?" And back then, to change this little thing, he wanted like the hands differently. You have to draw the whole thing, and I vowed never to draw for anyone ever again.
Time to speak up was in the sketch stage. We have already finished with the ink stage and are done.
Yeah, he's like, I love it, but could you change this? And I was like, I looked at him, I was like, I'm gonna have to charge you a little bit more. He's like, oh, really? And I'm like, I have to draw the whole thing over. And he's like, oh. That's why I came to you with 16 sketches. Do you like this? Do you like that? Do you like this? But yeah,
Yeah.
no, I in the comic, I started as an illustrator, and then they made me an inker. And then they asked me if I wrote, and I was like, "Yeah, I write." And I started writing like the stories and creating like basically the character arcs and stuff like that. And they were like, "You should be the writer," because I was so good that I had friends that wanted to introduce me to Disney's animated department, right? And I didn't want to do that because I was 18. And the thing I was told was, even your doodles become their property. And as an 18-year-old, I didn't have the foresight to be like, I just won't doodle. I'll just work and make a. So I opted out of that, and I don't know why like my brain should have jumped on that. But I worked with artists at this comic book company that was like basically it was homegrown, in Florida, and they made me look like I couldn't draw. You know what I'm saying? Like I knew how good I was, and they would draw, and I'm like, "Do you need me to ink? Like I'll just ink." And then they were like, "Well, we actually need a writer," and I was like, I can handle that." So, but it's just funny, like how you know what you want to do, and you work on what you want to do, and like you said, there's misconceptions.
Oh
You,
yeah.
sometimes you gotta take the crappiest aspect of the most passionate thing you love and be willing to do it. And I tell people all the time, like, you want to be an actor, you want to be a writer, you want to be a producer, you actually have to start doing shit you don't like doing within your field, so you can get involved, you can start building the relationships, those relationships start understanding who you are, and you start showcasing your value sets and learning the industry. And then when you've earned the right and the time of being there, someone's going to go, you act, you write, you direct. And that's what happened to Steven Spielberg. That's what happened to a majority of the most successful people in our industry, who are the shoulders of opportunity. They've created the world we look at in that universe. They didn't. Steven Spielberg did not walk up to a studio and go, "Listen, I need this much money to be a director," and they were like, "Absolutely."
Oh yeah, we had a crew member. So on No More Goodbyes, when we were filming that, um, we had a role that we needed to fill while we were on set on there, and we had a crew member that had worked with us on a couple projects, and she was interested in auditioning for it, and I was like, sure. So she auditioned for it. We cast her in it. So she took a day off of her crew to study, and then she did and then she auditioned. She was good, and we put her in the role. And so some days she was crew, and some days she was cast. But I mean, that wouldn't have happened had she not been, doing some work for us.
And that's the thing. Like, I had a client It's probably the most inspiring conversation I've ever had with a client because I'm usually teaching them. Uh, I was trying to explain to them the value of getting involved. And they basically worked, they started in the food industry, like they worked at a supermarket, okay? And they wanted to be a musician, okay? Their mindset, though, is I will only be a musician if my band and my music is what gets me there. Okay. So they didn't want to do anything other than I will only accept this outcome. And I asked them, remember, they work at a supermarket. Okay. I asked them, why wouldn't you be willing to work with another band or be a roadie or work at a record label, as a runner or volunteer or whatever? And they said, because if I'm not doing the thing I love, I don't put time into it. So I'm going to just work until that happens. So I asked them, do you like being a seafood manager? And they said, no, I hate my job. I said, okay, how long have you been in the seafood industry? And they said, 15 years. Well, not to say, but the supermarket industry, 15 years. I go, how did you get the seafood management position? They said, well, I started as someone who packed out the aisles in a supermarket. I made friends with a deli guy. He suggested that I start working in the deli. While I was in the deli, I worked there so long, I got a promotion and a raise. And then someone told me I should join the fish union, and I did. And I started as a nobody at the fish union. And while I was there, I made real good friends with the manager who moved to a different supermarket. And then they actually suggested I move with them, and they gave me a management position there. And one thing and I go, so let me get this straight. You started working in an industry you didn't like, doing a job you hated, and by being involved and around people to build and cultivate relationships and establish your brand value and understand the industry, others gave you operation, opportunity, and purpose and pulled you along with them to a point where you were now authority in the industry. Imagine you did the same thing with your music career in the music industry, doing things you hated so you could be in the field you love. And he just was like, oh my God, I just wasted 15 years of my life. I go, it's okay. You're only 35.
Well, I mean, and that's the thing is, I never really consider anything wasted if you're putting if you're working hard at it, because
Yeah.
like all your skill sets usually are transferable to other things. You
Oh,
know,
yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Like
um,
there's
but yeah,
bass fish.
it's interesting all the roadblocks people put in their own way. And the other thing I noticed too is some people are really scared of success,
Oh, yeah.
and so they'll have something they want to do, they'll talk about it, but they won't take the steps to go forward on it for fear that they will fail and that the dream will be dead. And they don't know they're even doing that, but that's exactly what they're doing on there, but they don't even realize it.
Exactly. And it, it's just I don't know about you, but I like taking people under my wing. I like mentoring people. And when I see people just not getting it, and just like you want to help, you want to be, stop it. Just stop what you're doing and take some but like your journey couldn't have been I want to do this, it happened. You know, right? Like you weren't just like, I'm going to be a producer. I'll do it all on my own. No, like you said,
Yeah,
I have
yeah.
a
So
phone.
I really wanted to direct on there. Obviously, I ended up doing a lot of producing in
Yeah.
the meantime. I started out producing and also doing assistant directing, or AD, which is basically a lower level of producing, is what that is.
Yep.
Because you're taking all of the on-set producing tasks that a director would have to deal with, and you're doing it.
Hmm.
And you're making sure that it runs efficiently so that they can keep all the creative in their headspace and
Yeah.
not have to deal with any logistics. So your AD does all the logistics on there. So I was doing those, and I'd even jump onto projects where like they either had an AD walk off or they fired them. So I would come in and clean up the mess. So
Yeah.
it was like kind of a step beyond. It's like you're cleaning up a horrible mess, and your job is to get it back on track, get morale up,
Yeah.
get it on budget and stuff like that. And so, I mean, it's same as a corporate overhaul turnaround. It's same thing. You're cleaning up a corporation, or one that's failing, or they don't know what they're doing, or they have poor leadership, or they don't know what
Exactly.
leadership is, or bad work environment, or whatever. So you go in, and you clean all that stuff up, and I've done it just so many times. So after I got married, we Rebecca was pregnant with our first child, and when that happened, I was like, oh man, I've got to move to a desk job. Like I can't just be gone,
Yeah.
or I've got to leave the industry while we're raising kids, because it's one thing to have a family, it's another thing to keep the family. So, I mean, how many people we know have a family, but they didn't keep the
True.
family? It all fell apart.
True.
Like I
True.
didn't,
We could
I
only be
didn't
so
want to be
lucky.
that statistic, right? Because number one, Rebecca's freaking hot, and I love
Yeah.
her, and she's amazing and everything.
I don't
And
know how to agree or disagree with you on that, because if I disagree, I'm insulting you. If I agree, I'm going over the boundary. So I go, interesting you feel that way.
well, she doesn't agree with me, but hey, that doesn't matter. I love her; she's
Yeah.
amazing. And that's what matters. So
How many women really believe they're beautiful? Listen, I want to get to the shop. I know we were talking, but before
yeah,
I
yeah.
get there, I
So
want just
so just really quick there. So I did like 10 years of corporate overhaul turnarounds
yeah,
on there. So just so many different fields. And then my kids wanted to act. So then I came back to the industry, and I was like, I could either work for the studio and work from the bottom up, or I can create my own production company and work from the bottom up. But I actually might own it
yeah, exactly.
after 10 years. Whereas you won't own the studio after 10 years, or
Well,
15
they'll
years.
own you, you know.
So,
But
but yeah,
for the audience listening, I like that you said everything you said, because earlier you said your phone is filled with 3,000-4,000 people and they're organized, and the power of a producer is not necessarily that they are a producer, but what can they do? What do they bring to the table to lead, follow, and advise to help that project in the best possible way, or in some cases, the industry, the business. And again, you didn't just go, I want to be a producer. You had to grow into being a producer over years of collecting those numbers and collecting those relationships, and not just knowing people, but having people know who you are and valuing who you are, and not just going, oh, it's James. But going, oh, it's James. What do you need, buddy? And I don't think a lot of people understand this industry, and any industry is not what can I do? How great am I at my job? It's not that. That is like the because you could be amazing at your job, but if no one's paying attention to you, and you're not paying attention to anyone else, and you're not learning your industry to grow, you're just always going to be the best button maker. But you'll never be the owner one day. You'll never be the person that people say, I need their buttons. I have to get to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's good that you said that. And that's what I like to do with the show. I like to connect the dots and let the audience hear, oh wait, it's like,
well, that's the thing is so many people. This is this is the irony of it.
yeah,
This industry versus any other industry is a team sport.
yes,
You can't do it yourself. If you do, it's going to take you 10 years. And by the time you finish in 10 years, people don't care. Like it's taking so long on there. So it's a team sport, but then everybody feels they need to be out for themselves.
yep. It's the me perspective.
So those things, they literally don't match. So you have to get over the I'm out for myself mentality,
Yeah,
and you have to adopt the team sport mentality, which means it's not about your project.
yep.
Go help somebody with their project,
Mm-hmm.
and help somebody else with their project. And as you help them with their projects, and if you're helping the right people, then they're going to turn around and they're going to be interested in helping out you. If you help out
Yeah.
the wrong people who, they're just totally selfish, then it doesn't do you any good. But,
Yeah. And also, when you're helping someone's project, it's not about you still. Like, you're not there to be like, all right, how do I help this project because it's going to help me? But more importantly, I want to add ideas that I think are great, but don't really fit the mission of the project I'm involved in. But because I came up with it and they're not accepting it, they don't trust me. I don't really care that I'm here now. So I'm just a body. And like that kind of mentality is going to destroy your career.
Like I've
Um,
always learned. I mean, I learned to stay in my lane. You know,
okay. Yeah.
um, you know. So you do as much as you can in your lane
Hmm.
on there, but you got to remember, it's like if you're not the director on the project, don't try and step into the director lane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you just can't. I mean, you can be the best in your role and what you're in aspect, and you can let people know, oh yeah, I'm more than willing to help out in these other things or stuff like that. But it's like don't take over the project. Like that's
I was I was uh I was in a theater company for like a year, like when I was first getting into acting, and the director, usually sits in the chair and watches the play as you're kind of, blocking it and everything. And the director gives the actor some direction, and then we do the scene, and then it's like, all right, let's take it from the top. And one of the actors walks over to the other actor and goes, "You know what you should do, and also the emotional cue you're looking for." And the director goes, excuse me, uh, would you like to sit here and direct? He talked like that, by the way. Would you like to sit here and direct a play, and I will do the acting? I'm the one who hired you to act, not direct. Please stop that.
yeah.
And then you know what's crazy? That actor was never cast in another play that entire time I was there for the year.
And that's the thing is like if you don't learn to stay in your lane on a given project,
Yeah.
you're not going to be asked back.
Yeah, exactly. You're either adding value or you're taking the patience of people. Uh, but with that said,
Well, I mean, projects are hard enough as is. Like anybody who makes the process just a hair more difficult, you don't need because
exactly.
it's already difficult enough.
I'm walking in with a headache. I don't need to get another one.
You want people who are going to make it easier involved in the process, and that's part of it too. It's like, and I've seen this happen on so many projects. Stuff is going to go bad at some point. It
Hmm.
always is. That's the nature of this.
Yeah.
Like it is going to. This is a tough process. There's so many things that are against you. At some point, stuff is going to get bad. Now, who is going to be beside you, shoulder to shoulder in the trenches,
Hmm.
and who is going to literally jump out of the foxhole and bail on you?
Exactly.
Whether it be a PA, whether it be a cinematographer, whether it be an actor, like is somebody going to bail or is somebody going to try and like jump on the mutiny bandwagon or whatever it is? You don't need that person. You don't
James.
you don't you don't want to ever work with that person because like there's so many people that are fair weather friends.
Yes.
When you're on a set, you need the people that they are in it for the end.
Yeah.
They are going all the way to the end. They are never going to waver. They are
Yep.
on board. They are team with a
Yeah.
capital T. And it's I'll never forget. We're in the screening, Silver Linings Playbook.
Hmm.
David O. Russell, and he's like, but I'll subtract the explicitives or whatever. He's like, it only takes one bad apple to really ruin the whole film experience, to just make it awful.
Yeah.
And it's like you got to protect your team from a bad apple entering into the team.
Yeah.
You do
Absolutely.
that, like the film experience, as hard as it is just as rewarding. Like, and that's the thing is we don't always talk about that. We talk about how hard it is to make films and stuff like that, but the reward of that hard work
Yeah.
it is so intoxicating that people won't leave this industry.
Yeah.
They will give this last industry their last pint of blood because the reward is just there's not even words to explain the reward of that hard work coming to fruition and capturing lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, because it's not one day of work. It's like months, years, decades. Sometimes, Spider-Man took 20 years to get made. But I have to tell you, when I met you at AFM, I had just gotten out of cancer surgery. Like I was literally, my doctor was like, "You shouldn't go," and I was like, "I gotta," because I was in like make life happen. Like I was being pumped by the literally. I was on death's door when I got, like it was either surgery or I die. Like that's where I was. And I get there, and I had a full team behind me. I had people, rooting for me. We get there, we had six studios, all interested in the show we were producing, right? But what happened was, I got home, and my wound and my surgery got messed up because I was not resting. I was out, so I had to go back into dealing with doctor stuff, and I had to take a break, and I had to breathe. I was going to die. The studios basically ended up moving around, and they were like, all right, well, if you're sick, and they were a little worried. So, and the agent that I had representing me as a literary agent, they didn't move forward because I'm in a situation. Every single person involved vanished. And I literally had a meeting with them. I said, listen, this is the situation. I don't feel good. I need the rest. But I have faith in how capable you all are. This is what we need to do. This is the list. These are the contacts. Can you do this? And they would rather go away than step up. And I don't know about you, but in that situation, it's do or die, right? And like we've come this far, we have this much movement. I'm going to step up and I'll take some action. And that, that obviously changed my way of doing business moving forward. And you're right. Your team is the essence of your success. No one can be successful because the moment you think you will be your success, you fail to realize you have to talk to a studio, and a studio is filled with people. You have to talk to investors. Those are people. You have to, you're not alone in this industry, and you have to make people, because I'm sure you talk to investors that you go back and forth to and you rotate through and stuff like that. You can't just go to them when you need money. They have to be a part of the mission. But
The faster you build functional relationships, like positive, functional, healthy relationships,
yeah,
faster you will rise in this industry or any industry for that matter.
I agree 100%. And those relationships were 5-10 years in the making. But it's amazing what happens when, like, I wasn't healthy. But it was a weird, like, it was very eye opening, because you go, whoa, I'm not just my opportunities, guys. like,
Well, yeah, and that's so key. I think that's where some people forget that you're not selling the project that you're working on. You are, and I hate the word selling yourself, but you're marketing yourself, not the
yeah,
project. You're building that relationship with you because that project, I mean, let's face it, there's thousands of projects that get bought every day, and there's thousands of projects that get shelved every day for some random reason. You know, for one reason or another, they get shelved.
yep,
And you want to have a relationship beyond that project, no
yeah,
matter what happens with that project.
yeah, because I have a lot of writer friends, and they go, I don't want them to make my projects. Just keep optioning it, and that's how I make a living. Because once you make it, I just get money, and then it's done. And there's a other writer friend that's like, I like selling my projects, and I don't care what they do with it. I'm not emotionally attached because I'm a writer. I need to write another. I have to keep writing. I can't just be like, I
I
have this.
remember having this conversation with a colleague about some writers that are in Hollywood,
Yeah,
and they have a beautiful large house in Hollywood Hills, making some serious bank, and they have never had one of their films produced ever, ever. It's like, what's your IMDb look like? It doesn't look like anything because they either sell it and it somehow doesn't get made. It gets rewritten, you know,
Yeah.
12 times and then shelved, and there's so much money against it, and blah blah blah. Or they've done rewrites on other action films
Hmm.
on there, but then somebody else does a rewrite after them, and then the WGA doesn't give them a credit
Yeah.
on there, or you know, or they would get a credit, but it never gets made
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
there, and it's like amazing. So what have you made? What have you?
Yeah,
Nah.
what are you making? What do you mean? I actually I had a literary agent literally have that conversation. They were like, "Yeah, but what projects were made into things?" I go, "Well, I get hired to write the script," and they go, "Yeah, but nothing's being made." I go, "I get hired by a producer. I write the script, and then that producer sucks because they're not getting the money. They're not doing. They don't. It's not. It's that's like hiring a plumber, okay, and then asking them to fix the blueprints."
Yeah.
Of the house. Like they're not the architect. They're just the plumber. And and I go, I know I'm good because those same producers are referring me. So if
Oh yeah.
I'm consistently working,
Well,
that
that's the interesting thing is because there's internally how the industry works, and then there's the external public,
yeah,
and the external public don't understand it. But it, or if you're coming from external coming into the industry, you may not understand it. But if you've been in the industry, like you get it, you understand it. And it's like, and so it's like, okay, great, I'll read. It's like it doesn't matter if your script wasn't made or not. You know, I can was made or not instead of double negative. Sorry about that. But you can read the script and you can say, "Wow, this is a great script."
yeah,
Like you've got me hooked here in the first, 3 5 pages. I'm invested. I want to see where this thing's going to go. I can see the subtext in here.
yeah,
I can see what's really going on. Wow, these set pieces, you know, these scenes, they're dynamic. I can I can see that this character, three different A-listers that would jump at the chance to play this character.
yeah,
You know, so you can see that when you're reading it. Well, if you're trained,
yeah.
you can see that. But I mean, the average person, they read a script and they don't know the difference between a great script, a good script, and a bad script. They
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, exactly.
Um,
And usually they're like, why is there so much action? Because it's a bad script.
well, they'll be like, well, why isn't there more dialogue? And it's like, well, you know, if you can tell a story through pictures without dialogue, you've just elevated it.
Yeah.
The more you can do that, oh wait, oh yeah, the sorry, I'm gonna forget his name, but the creator who did Primal.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's an animated um, series on there, and it's without dialogue.
Yeah.
He was able to communicate all of it visually and through sound without dialogue.
Yeah.
Like
And
that is a tough exercise for a filmmaker, for a writer. But if you can do that, it puts you in a whole new level of storytelling.
oh yeah, well, what you do is who you are. So actions speak louder than words. And when you can really, Marlon Brando was notoriously famous for looking at a chunk of dialogue and be like, "No, I'll fix this," and he'll say a couple of the words, and then his actions and his behaviors really elevate it. And I was having this argument with a writer once because they wanted my advice, and I says, "Well, what? Why don't you write a 5-page script for me? Let me see a scene." And they sent it, and I go, "There's no character development." And they go, "Well, you only gave me 5 pages." And I says, and I was like, if you can't, on the first moment that we see this character, have something that creates some sort of character. It could be a visual, it could be an action, it could be a dialogue. Maybe it's what they say or don't say. It's what they do and what they don't do. It's how they look or how they don't look. And they were like, "No, I need at least 15 pages." I go, Well, that's where you need to work on. You need to work because I go, if you're going to write scripts, the first thing a producer looks at is the page count. They go, how many pages we got here? Because every line and every page costs money.
Oh
And,
yeah.
if it takes you 15 pages to get something interesting, that's 15 pages of money that they don't want to spend. That's why you cut things down and you
Oh
want to.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, in for like our film No More Goodbyes, I don't even remember how many locations. I'm gonna say an obscene number, like 60 locations on there.
Yeah.
It's like here we're shooting something. We're shooting this in less than 3 weeks. So you're talking what? I think we had 15, 16, 16 days shoot. I think is what we was.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And an obscene amount of locations. Like any producer would run screaming from that. But if you, but for me, it's like I've been producing for so long. I know my capabilities,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, here's how we're going to do this, and you figure out how to like find locations where it fits multiple locations.
Yeah.
On there. So and you try and get all of them around a base camp, so that way you can just boom, 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 and go through them and not have to do a company move. Because you do a company move, it blows a day.
Yeah.
I mean, like
The day's
you
gone.
might as well just say, "Oh, here's a whole day of filming that we have to pay for that we're doing no filming."
Yep. Yeah, it's not worth it. I read a script once, and like transitions, you don't really write transitions. But they weren't like
Star Wars white.
Star Wars, like, but it was worse than that. It was man gets out of car, so it'll be it's a scene heading. It's like interior, exterior, car. Man in right, and then it says man in car. That's the action. Then the next scene is exterior, outside car. Man stands outside car, and then it's like interior office, right? And I'd be like, why do we have to see this? And he's like, well, that we would see that on screen, so we know that he showed up at the office. And I'm like, him being at the office indicates that we know he's at the office.
And you don't even have to put him in the office. You can actually put him in the office bathroom, and an office bathroom looks different from your home bathroom, so you automatically know he's in an office bathroom looks different from a stadium bathroom.
That's right.
Or so you put him in an office bathroom, an executive office, like bathroom or whatever.
Yeah.
You know exactly where this guy is, and you can have like the whole awkward interchange in the bathroom. Somebody coming out of a stall that didn't see, whatever. And that you've got a great little scene, subtext. You understand they're at the office. You understand their relationship with the other people at the office by how awkward it was. Like there's so many things that you can layer in on itself in just this moment. And so that's one of the things in like a script is like, okay, what is the audience learning from this scene?
Yep.
List everything that the audience is learning. And if you're only listening one thing, I got to ask, why is that scene in the film?
Yeah. Can we place that somewhere else?
Show? Yeah. Like, it shouldn't be there. If you should be able to layer in all these different things that people will pick up on and learn.
Yeah, like when you read a script and anytime they travel, they have to take a taxi, and then they write a scene with them in the taxi. Then they write a scene with the taxi getting to the end, and then you're just like, why do we have to always see them in the taxi? And they're like, well, it's character development. What kind of character? Like, why
are you developing the taxi as a character?
Yeah, like, does he hate taxi drivers? So we have to always see him hating on taxi? Can't we just have him be like, oh, I fucking hate taxi? No, but writers are writers, and they get like impassioned to what they no. This is what I wrote, and they don't know how to kill their babies. However, we reached an hour, and I don't want to keep you longer because I know you're a busy man. You got what is it? Friday, Thursday? I forget. I think it's Thursday. However, I did want to get to some shop talk, but we didn't get there. So I'm definitely going to have you on for season 2. I try to do 10 episodes a season. We'll get you on season 2. And for those watching and listening, we're going to talk about developing and processing a pitch deck, its value, and really, its purpose. And when I say pitch deck, I don't mean the collection of cards you have for baseball, or a pitch deck as in somebody's on deck to
You
throw.
call it a lookbook.
It's a lookbook,
Yeah,
executive summary.
summary, pitch deck, lookbook, but
Yep.
lookbook has a much better sound to it, and frankly, it should have a little bit of the look and feel of your project. If it doesn't, then you designed it wrong.
So what you're saying is, every time I make a pitch deck, using only Smurf themes has been a bad choice.
Hey, if you want to do a reboot of the Smurfs, that is up for you.
Actually, it was a Die Hard remake, and I made Smurfette the main character, and I thought it was Smurferific. I'll be honest. And but anyway, listen, James, is it James, right? James. Look, I want to say thank you so much for being on the Right Mindset, and that's spelled with WRID, because right mindset. And I appreciate it. Coming on, chit chatting, tell me a little bit about what you've been doing. Thank you for not pitching your shows. I really appreciate that. I had a guest once. I had to cut it. They sit down and they took out like a book and they opened up the book and they're like, "Yeah, I have," and they started listing stuff. I was like, "Yo, buddy," I go, "It ain't that kind of show." We're here to educate.
That sounds
listeners.
exciting. Why don't we go find an old white pages and start reading it?
Aaron Alberts, 631-877. Anyway, hey everybody listening.
I gotta say, on a side note, it would be hilarious if we started calling the numbers in an old white pages and one of them actually was the person.
Have you seen a white pages? That's the real question. Like, when was the last time you saw that book on your driveway?
Driveway. Oh my gosh, that was ages ago.
Ages. Well, you live in a condo, or you have a house, right?
I remember I used to have like old yellow pages for different areas.
Oh, that's right. That's
and
right.
that and stuff. And I was just like, what? Once it's like we had Google, I was like, I can get rid of all of these. That frees up a whole bookshelf.
I'm telling you, the first Terminator would be a whole different movie. You wouldn't be able to look up Sarah Connor's. Anyway, hey, James, thanks again. I really appreciate it. To the audience, remember to keep developing the right mindset.